Hello and welcome to Backyard Catch, a 2020 edition of the podcast. This is Nick Roby, and I'm joined again by Will Harper. Will, how's it going?
Going good, man. Going good. 2020 is here. This is our first one of the new year. So looking forward to doing this more often, coming at you more times in 2020.
Yeah, I like it. It's crazy. We've already passed the year mark. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but thank you for supporting and listening to the podcast. It's already been a year, which is still kind of crazy for me to wrap my brain around. That just time just travels that fast that to where we're already lapping again, and we're in the middle of basketball season for college basketball, and then we've got March Madness coming up in spring. Pitchers and catchers are reporting this week. Like, it's flying by, which is pretty fun. So, Will, what we were kind of thinking of is, if y'all haven't heard, there is another football league that's coming up. You're like, wait, I thought the Super Bowl was just over. Well, it was. It is a spring league. And then you might go, well, wait, I heard about a league last year. It's different than the one last year. We have a different league. So last year was the AAF. Was it American Alliance?
The Alliance of American Football, I believe, is what it was.
Alliance of American Football. Okay. So we have that, and now we have XFL 2.0. So I wanted to say it was early 2000 or 2001 when they combined with WWE to try to make a spring league, but they did it in more of like an entertainment way. And so it flopped after a year, and they had some different issues with that. And now we have the second edition that just debuted this past weekend, the weekend after the Super Bowl. So we're going to kind of give our thoughts on that. So before, they really tried to be different and really go for the entertainment and kind of go with the little showmanship of like the WWE. And this time around, it seems like they're going for more of a alternative but supportive way with the NFL, to where they're more of a spring league, kind of a minor league, but kind of their own thing, but they're working together more. And where the difference is, they're just going to have some different rules that kind of help make it a little bit of a fresh look. So they start off with 8 teams. We have 4 in the East and 4 in the West. We've got the New York Guardians, the St. Louis Battlehawks, which I didn't even know a Battlehawk existed, but now we do. The DC, cool. The DC Defenders, like defending the Capitol. The Tampa Bay Vipers, which I think that's kind of cool. Houston Roughnecks, Seattle Dragons, the Dallas Renegades, and the Los Angeles Wildcats. So not as much of the adjective words as they used last time. They have some more mascots. Even a little shout out to your mascot, Will, from Dallas.
That's right. The Renegades.
Renegades. So those are the 8 teams, and they're going more for, they play. I want to say they're going to do like 10 or 12 weeks.
Yeah, it's a 10-week regular season. So you play everyone in your division twice. So that's 3 other teams in your division. So twice is 6 games. You play the other 4 teams once. There is no bye week, so it's just straight up 10 weeks in a row, leading up to the playoffs. And the playoff format is the top 2 teams from each division will play each other in a semifinal, and then those will play each other in whatever the XFL names their Super Bowl the following week. So essentially 12 weeks of more football to carry you into pretty much the crux of baseball season. Of the Masters and golf will be up by then, and really be getting you ready for spring and college football starting back up after that. So it's a full-year sport now. This is really bridging the gap.
I mean, this really does. I think their plan is to kind of bridge the gap of the offseason of the NFL and college, to where if you wanted your football fix, that they're going to go full circle in this, which I think is cool. And if that's is your favorite sport, then obviously like you're going to be interested in this. What rules we can kind of hit on that? Which rule kind of stood out to you that you thought was the most interesting, or there's the one you're most intrigued by how that was going to kind of play out?
Yeah, so I'm looking through the rules right now. One thing that I really like about this iteration of the XFL is that they have legitimate football people like running the operation. So the commissioner
Right.
is Oliver Luck, which is Andrew's dad. He was a football player in the NFL, and they have other football people actually in the organizations to help build personnel. Like all the coaches are pretty much well known. Like Bob Stoots is coaching the Renegades. June
Mm.
Jones is coaching the Roughnecks. You have like legitimate coaches that people know coaching these teams. And with their rules, a couple of my favorites, I did get to watch a couple of the games this weekend. I didn't get to watch every minute of every game. But one I'm looking forward to that I personally did not see in action was the double forward pass. So they are
Yeah.
allowing 2 forward passes as long as the second pass happens behind the line of scrimmage. So like right now, if you want to run a trick play where you throw it to the receiver and the receiver throws it downfield, you have to make sure that you throw it behind where the quarterback releases it. So essentially it's a lateral. So if the guy drops it, it's not an incomplete pass, it's a fumble. If a guy knocks it away, it's a fumble, not an incomplete pass. So with
Right.
this, you can throw it forward like you would a screen normally. But in turn, the guy who catches it can turn around and throw it back to the quarterback or downfield or pretty much anything else. So it's really going to help with those trick plays. So if you see a pass going to the receiver, usually you could tell if the receiver is running backwards to catch it, you knew it was going to be a double pass.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're not going to know. The normal screen can turn into a double pass pretty easily. That's probably the one I'm most looking forward to. The other thing is this overtime rule. Have you seen their overtime rules?
No, I'm looking at it now. Why don't you run it through for the people?
Yeah, so the overtime rules I think are pretty slick. One of my favorite movies I did was The Mighty Ducks, and specifically
Mm-hmm.
P2, the one where like the kids play for Team
Yes.
USA. And like the pinnacle of the movie is the shootout between
Mm-hmm.
is it Iceland?
I want to say it's
Iceland
Iceland. Yeah.
Iceland and the US. And so they take turns, like essentially it's 1-on-1. It's the goalie versus the guy with the puck trying to score. That's what the XFL rules are pretty much. It's like each team gets 5 chances to score from the 5 yard line. So if me and
Mm-hmm.
you are like if I'm the Renegades and you're the Roughnecks, I go first. I run a play from the 5. If I score, it's 2 points. Your team comes on the field against my defense. If you score, it's 2 points. So it's essentially like a shootout, like it would be in soccer or the NHL or whatever like that. If it's still
Right.
tied after 5, so let's say I convert 3 times and miss 2, you convert 3 times and miss 2, then it becomes like 1 time. So I'm out there, I go for a play. If I score, you have to score or I win. If I miss it, I have to stop you or you win. So I think it's
Right.
pretty neat. It's gonna be intense when it actually happens.
Yeah, I would say that it does have definitely like a shootout, like in soccer, like penalty shootout. I mean, that's what's
Hmm.
coming to mind for me is that that's what they're really trying to go instead of just having these long, drawn out extra periods that are kind of football, but it's not always fully where both teams get a shot. At least with this, each team would get a shot, and it's of the quicker variety. It definitely would be a more exciting type
Right.
of a finish. So we didn't really get to see any of those this past weekend because it felt like there were a couple of teams that definitely you could tell that they were the better team, at least in
Right.
that first game. So there wasn't going to be as close of a chance to get to do this. But I mean, I like that. It's creative. It's something different, which is kind of fun.
And it makes sense for a sport like football because the biggest problem that people have with like a soccer version of this is that in soccer you play 11 on 11 the entire game, and then it could come down, if these are the rules in your league, where it comes down to 1-on-1. But with football, it's still 11 on 11. You have plays inside the 10-yard line, inside the 5, all throughout the game. So it's not like a
Right.
scenario where it's a 1-on-1 in a team sport. It's both teams in a situation that happens normally throughout every game with a goal line play. So that's why I think it makes a lot of sense for football, and it's something that I think that college football and the NFL, if it's a success in this league, it's something they could at least think about implementing in their sports going forward.
No, I mean, I like it. I think in a way it's kind of a way for the NFL to test it out, because I mean that's what happened when the ABA and the NBA, when they joined the NBA back in the day. They're the ones who had the 3-point line. And when they joined, if I remember correctly, that's when the NBA started implementing the 3-point line, because they saw how exciting it was, how it increased the play, and really added value to the game when that wasn't as traditional a part of it. And so I think it would be interesting to see if the NFL starts, if they see success with it and they see that the fans like it and they see the overall how it works, and it works well for the teams in the league. I mean, I would think that they might adopt at least one or two of these rules down the road. I mean, they're pretty traditional in most ways, so I don't know if it'll be all of it, but I like the ideas behind some of it, especially with overtime could be interesting, because they're definitely trying to tweak overtime. That's not a finished product.
For sure.
Another one that I like too, and it's not as like of a exciting, but I like the fact that there's a 25 second play clock. Like, I like how interesting that makes it, and I like that it really pushes the game faster. Like, when you watch the game, you can feel it be a faster pace. Like, I think like arena football, they're very fast, but it's just a short field, and it doesn't fully feel like football, and the scoring is a lot higher. So there's not as much of a struggle. That is what makes football really fun, is you have the defense and offense really going at each other, and there's a struggle. But as Americans, I think we just want to see points as well, but you want them to feel hard fought for. And so I like that it's still football, but it's a faster pace. You have to make decisions faster. And so it feels more of like the faster, like college offenses that really started going, like with Oregon when they started their hurry up tempo. Like that, people they've shown to like that, and players like playing in that way, and just more of a call a play and go type of thing. And so I think that's really fun. And what else? There was another one that I really liked. We can also talk about, I mean, like they have like the college rules to where like they only have to have 1 foot in bounds. And now I remember. The one I also liked too was the comeback rule. Like with 2 minutes left, that the ball stops whenever it gets placed, and then the clock starts going after the ball is placed. So
right. So it's essentially like you don't have to, if you get tackled in bounds like in the NFL now, the clock keeps running no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Where in this, you have time to come down and reset. You're not wasting 5-6 seconds trying to run up to the ball and snap it. You have time to get down there, spike it, and then get your next play in. So it saves those few precious seconds you can need if you're coming from behind. And especially, too, if you're trailing by 9, that's only a 1-score game in the XFL.
Yeah, I mean, that's
the extra point.
Right, which is hard to wrap my brain around, because they kept saying, like, for example, one team was down like 12 points, and I saw the Twitter page for the XFL is like, hey, just remember, this is a 2-score game. And I was like, wait a minute, I guess it is, because you could just do a field goal. I mean, obviously a touchdown, 6 points, but then we haven't touched on this, but then the extra points. So instead of you kicking an extra point like normal for 1 point, or going for 2 points with the 2-point conversion, now there's no kicking, but then you have a choice of a 1, 2, or 3 point play, but you go from either, I think, the 2, the 5, or the 10. And so wherever you start, if you convert it, that's how many points you get. So it definitely gives coaches a lot more options of what they want to do. There's a lot more strategy behind it.
Yeah, and as the season goes along, go ahead.
Huh?
I said, go ahead. Finish your thought, then I'll go.
No, I was going to say, I don't know if it'd be hard. I think it'd be harder to be a coach. You're definitely more scrutinized just because of all these different decisions, and you're on the mic the whole time. Yeah, it's just a lot more decisions to make.
I'll say there are going to be some more analytics involved as the season goes along to see, okay, It's either a 1-point try from the 2, a 2-point try from the 5, or a 3-point try from the 10. So the plays that you run from the 2 and the 5, are they essentially the same? And does it benefit you more to just go for the 2 every time because you have a little more space to work? I don't know. I'll be interested to see how that kind of plays out. So just overall, did you get to watch much of it?
I would say overall, I watched a lot of the opening game. I saw most of the opening game.
Okay.
That was between DC Defenders with Cardell Jones, who was the third string quarterback from Ohio State, if you remember, who helped them win a national title.
That's
12
him.
gauge, as he's fondly known.
He's never lost a game that he started since high school.
That is still crazy.
Yeah.
Post high school. That's still crazy. And they were playing the Seattle Dragons, and so that was fun. I would say DC was definitely the better team. But that was interesting. And then I saw like little bits of the other games. I didn't really get to watch as much of the other ones, but seeing the first one, I liked it. I think the flow was different. If I'm being honest, I had lower expectations, and I think maybe that's also because of the AAF last year. You know, you kind of think about like, okay, a second league, and also, you know, this is the second time they're trying this. I said low expectations, but it was fun and different, and you know, college basketball is picking up, but it's still not into its like full groove yet. So there does feel like a little bit of a void, and so I don't know. I was impressed. I would say I was pleasantly surprised with it. I mean, what did you think?
Yeah, so I'm kind of about the same. On Saturday, I was building a recumbent bike that we got. So I was building the bike upstairs, and I had my iPad and my earphones plugged in, like actually watching, listening to it as I was building our stationary bike, and I liked it. So I think that the rule changes and then the interviews. I really like the in-game interviews with the coaches and the players and the live mics, like with the offensive coordinators coming into the headsets of the offensive players. I like kind of the personal touch that they put on it. Those, and then the quick pace of play, like you mentioned, the rule updates. They're doing what they need to make it last because the talent just isn't as good. Which, I mean, that's what you expect. These are all players that are like right on the edge of making NFL rosters, but they're just on the wrong side of the 53-man roster. So I mean, they're still world-class athletes, but they're just not as good. They're not as good as Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes. Like, you're not going to see those types of throws and plays in the XFL. But the things they're doing, like the personal touch of the interviews and talking with people in game and listening in, that's going to make it interesting. I really like that aspect of it. I think it's kind of crazy, like if you throw an interception to lose the championship, you're going to come off the field and they're just going to interview you on the spot. It's like, what made you throw that pass? So yeah, there's going to be some 5-second delays for sure. But I really like it. I'll be interested to see kind of after week 3 or week 4 what's going on. Because the AAF last year, the first weekend, they did pretty well, not as well as the XFL did. Because the XFL has some legit TV partners. They're partnering with ESPN and Fox Sports. So the games are on Fox, FS1, ESPN, ABC, and ESPN2. So they're all going to be like nationally televised. And they convinced, like I said, some legit partners to come in and show their games. So I'm interested to see in 3 or 4 weeks, like, what's the perception? Are people still into it? What's going on with it? Just to kind of see. But yeah, I'll definitely be tuning in again to watch the football.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes it to where it's worth to check out for the rest of the season. So if you haven't, guys, I would definitely give it a look. I mean, I think it's going to take some adjustments still to get used to. And if you don't have a team, you know, like that's what's different too. Is NFL, there are these traditions of just teams and these rivalries, and we're here. You just have to have all these brands that you're getting used to. So right now the brand is, you know, okay, that's Bob Stoops' team with the Renegades, or Jones is on the DC Defenders, or Aaron Murray from Georgia was with the Tampa Bay Vipers. He did get benched, which that was kind of awkward. But You know what I mean? Like, it's like the names that go with it, and then eventually I think it could pick up. Yeah, I think that's the thing, is it's how's it going to do. When I was listening to like talk radio and just listening and just thinking about it, right now there is definitely a void. But what's it going to look like? Like, what are ratings going to look like when, we've got conference championship basketball and March Madness really takes over
NBA
March,
playoffs, like
NBA playoffs, baseball starting back up. Like, you got all these people. Now, granted, there are people who their passion is football. They would only do football in the spring. They only look at the draft. They like to look at NFL Network. Look at old highlights. Look at player documentaries. All that kind of stuff. Like, there are people out there, but I would say the majority of people and how they take in sports, they take them in, or at least from my experience, I would take it in as like a seasonal thing, to where, you'd have a favorite sport, but then you kind of ebb and flow with whatever's in season. And there's definitely a rhythm to it, like a natural rhythm that's kind of built over time of the season of like, okay, it's March, it's college basketball. April, it's, start of NBA playoffs and baseball. You know what I mean? And then it'll get into the summer, and then college football and NFL will start in the fall. And it kind of just rotates. And so, yeah, I guess all that to say, it'll be interesting to see how this will all kind of play out in a year. And it sounds like they have a plan, or at least the money set in place to be around for about 3 years. So like that was also the problem with the AAF, is that they kind of just ran out of money too. And I think at least
ran out of money.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously, like, people want to get paid if they're going to get beat up. And so that seems at least in place, to where if the product is bringing in the viewership, they have the money to pay, to pay people. And also it helps when the average XFL player is going to make like $50,000, which is not a lot when you consider what all they're doing. But from a business standpoint, I mean, it's when your payroll's a lot less, you don't have to make as much to cover all that. I mean, and obviously, like, guys like the big time quarterbacks and names, they're going to make more money. But it almost has like an MLS type of feel to it, and how they first started.
Yeah, and a lot of the guys in this league, like, they're trying to earn that NFL roster spot. That's the reason that most of them are in this league. Now, there's some guys that know that they're past their prime, or they're just doing it because they love football. But most of the guys in this league are like, all right, I'm going to use this as a way to show out, so I can try to get that spot on the NFL roster next year. Last couple things about it, and then I'll be done. If you want to finish up with it, you can. A big difference between this and the AAF last year is that the AAF, with their team placement, they strategically placed their teams in locations that did not have NFL franchises. So there might have been one team that was in a city that had an NFL team. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember all of them. But the XFL went in the exact opposite direction. 7 of their 8 teams are in cities that also have NFL franchises, and the one that's not is St. Louis, which of course had the Rams until
they used to.
When they went back to LA. Right. So they're going to places that have established football fans, and I think it's a smart move on their behalf to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and obviously too, like, there's a reason why those cities have the team. Like, those are the bigger markets. Like, and so I think it wasn't necessarily a bad move by the AAF to not pick those teams and try to go to the cities, but there is more of an uphill battle to try to stake your claim into that city's, like, culture, versus where when you've got Dallas, who are Cowboys obsessed and football obsessed, and it's Texas, like, it's not going to be a hard stretch for them. Now, granted, you're not going to be number one, but if you're not trying to be the number one thing in the city, I think you can be okay. And, it can capitalize on people just loving football and loving a different version of it. And so I think it's a win. I think it's how you brand it and how you run with it. I think it's like one of those things, like, you just have to, like, if you're picking this, you got to run with it and go for it. And I don't know. I guess I could just see like the XFL really becoming like do you think it would become like in baseball where there are actual minor league teams that are owned by like the parent
an affiliation?
club? Like an affiliation, like an official affiliation, or do you feel like it might be more of like an unofficial official minor league to where teams, like look at players and pick them from the XFL type of thing?
I don't think that the NFL is going to make this a minor league. I just don't see that happening because with the minor leagues, like they play the same time as Major League Baseball. Like their season coincides and runs along with it, where this is completely after the season. So it's not like if my 53-man roster, if my running back gets injured, I just call up a running back from my XFL minor league team because their season is completely after yours is done. So I don't see that happening.
Right.
But I know that they are, well, they've already said, like, if their guys get NFL roster spots, like get signed in free agency, like they're going to work with them and send them and just let them go or whatever. So they know that they're not the football league. Like they know the NFL is still king. They're just doing it as a compliment because they know people love football and people are going to watch it year round. So we've kind of already hinted at the team that I'm going with are the Dallas Renegades. Reason being is because my dynasty fantasy football team are the Rock Hill Renegades. So when I found out that an XFL team was going to share my mascot, I was like, well, I'm kind of obliged to be a fan. So the real question is, right here on the podcast, you are going to announce your fandom to an XFL team. You did not know this until now. Yeah, that I'm putting you on the spot.
You're just gonna put me on the spot. Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna have to pick someone right now. Because if someone does good, I mean, you can't be a bandwagon fan. So
you don't want to be. You don't want to be that person who's just like claiming. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've already got a week behind you. So you're getting close to bandwagon status already by after a week. So we've got to go ahead and nail this down. We got to nail this down right now.
Okay. Well, as I'm doing this, I'm trying to find the team colors because that is also important as well.
Yes.
So we'll start off by I'm still not 100%, but I'm just gonna go in and kind of decide with what I want. So let's put it this way. I know who I don't want, so we're gonna start there. I'm already gonna tell you I'm not picking New York. I can't pick a team from New York. I think it's just something inside of me that just doesn't want that, and also because they have like 20 the New York Guardians.
That's the Orioles fan coming out in you.
Yeah, and it's just New York. You're fine. You're a great city, but you also have 20 professional teams, so you're fine. I think I like LA's logo, the LA Wildcats, but I'm also just not going to pick a team from LA. The Tampa Bay Vipers were interesting, but I don't love their colors. Do you know what I mean?
Like, you don't like green and green?
Well, the green and green is not bad. It's the really light green. You know what I mean? It's like too much. So, and I'm not going to do the DC Defenders. It's probably also the Orioles thing. I like the Dragons as a logo. I don't know if I love the whole the way the jersey kind of works together. So I think I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go with Houston, the Houston Roughnecks.
Okay.
I like the feel of it. And also maybe it's just the Clemson playing for Houston as well. Maybe it's just the Deshaun Watson factor. But I don't know. I mean, I like the Renegades too. They look fun. But if I'm gonna pick one, I might have to pick the Houston Roughnecks and just jump on in and just say that's who I'm rooting for.
All right. Well, there you have it. We're going to mark this in the official log that Nick Roby is a Houston Roughnecks fan.
Right.
Until they bring your franchise to Atlanta or Charlotte. At that point, we have the ability to change our allegiance.
Yes, that is the caveat. If it goes to Atlanta or Charlotte, I think that's fair if we switch it. And also, just for the record, Houston is in first place. So I didn't know that when I picked it, but I just pulled up the standings.
Yeah, it's like after 1 week, I think everyone else in the West is 0-1, and then everybody in the East is 1-0 except for Tampa. So after 1 week, the East is stronger, but Dallas didn't have Landry Jones this week, so we'll see when old Landry comes back if they can turn it around.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I think Dallas will be fun with Bob Stoops. Yeah, so there you have it. There's the XFL. And so, Will, was there any other things that caught your eye this week while we're here? I know there's a lot we could talk about just catching up from the beginning of the year, but was there anything else that's kind of been on your sports mind you wanted to chime in with? Well, we got
Sure.
people listening.
I'll do a little bit of the Super Bowl recap since we haven't been on since the Super Bowl happened. I got to say, my boy Debo was the best player on the field for San Fran. Had San Fran been able to pull it out, I think he would have took home the MVP as a rookie.
I mean, I would have voted for him. He was the most dynamic player. You can almost argue that. I mean, obviously Tyreek Hill made some big plays, but the most consistent guy might have been Debo.
Mm-hmm. But I think Kansas City, I mean, they definitely deserved it. The way they came back at the end was pretty awesome. I don't know if Patrick Mahomes deserved the MVP, and I might get slandered for saying that. I thought Damian Williams was more instrumental to their win as the running back. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not going to argue against Pat Mahomes winning MVP. I mean, he's awesome. So, but Damian Williams might have been more deserving in that game.
And didn't he catch the winning touchdown, the go-ahead touchdown pass? And he had the winning, the extra touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm not like, I don't know if I would have voted for Pat Mahomes. I think it's also the QB factor. A lot of times the quarterback can win, if they end up winning. But I'm not going to not say he shouldn't have gotten it. It's just, I was a little surprised that he got it. For sure.
You mentioned earlier that pitchers and catchers are reporting this week, so baseball is right around the corner. Did you see the proposed rule changes for 2021?
I have not seen that. I know, and this is not the 3-batter minimum for relievers.
No, that one is going into effect this year. That one is a legit rule change for this year, that you have to face 3 batters or come to the end of an inning.
Right. I thought that was okay. So it's not that. Okay.
No, this is much more extreme. And this may be like a main topic on another podcast that we could dive more into. I was kind of give you a tease of what is being proposed now. The proposal would be to go to 7 teams in each league, make the playoffs. I don't know exactly how that would work from right now it's pretty easy with a wild card game between teams
right now
4 and
6.
5.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right
now it's 5. Yeah. So right now, the 2 wild card teams play each other, and then you have the top seed versus the wild card, and the 2 and 3 play each other. With 7, that kind of shakes it up a little bit. But that's not the big kicker. The big kicker is that the higher seed will be able to choose their opponent from the remaining lower seeds. So if you're the top seed, you can choose anyone below you that's still remaining to be played. So if the number 2 seed loses their 2 best players to injuries in the last week of the season, you could play the number 2 seed in the first round of your games. And then the 3 seed would have the next choice who they wanted to play below them. So that's a very interesting concept, one of which I don't know if I agree with. But it is out there. I know every team in the National League would definitely pick to play against the Braves, since we haven't won a playoff series in quite a while. We'd be first choice.
I don't know. I mean, they would have said that about the Nationals pretty recently too, and they did just win. So yeah. I don't know. I'd have to think about it, and that's why it should be a whole separate episode. I'm not sure how it's sitting right now. I have a lot more questions and thoughts that would take up a whole nother episode. So why don't y'all stay tuned for that? Because that sounds like a really interesting, especially with baseball coming up, about proposed change. That's a lot of playoff teams, to say the least. Because what you're talking about,
It's literally
If
half
it's
the
7
league,
league,
pretty much.
it's 30 teams, and it means 14 teams make the playoffs. So I mean, but other leagues do that. NHL and NBA pretty much over half their teams, around half their teams make the playoffs. So it's not unprecedented, but then it's like, it's almost like you're putting less emphasis on the regular season. But
And baseball's always been like a very intimate playoff, it feels like. Like when they added the second wild card team, people were like, wow, I mean, how are we going from 4 to 5 in each league? They were up in arms about it, or some people were at least.
For the record, I still don't like it, but
I think it should be a 3-game series.
Yeah, if you're doing it, you have to do it.
Yeah, the whole season you're trying to win your series you're in. So why would that change for one game, like to proceed in the playoffs? It doesn't make sense. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. So, well, there you go. Yeah, well, stay tuned for that. I mean, another topic to hit, I think, just really quickly is: did you watch the Duke and UNC game from this past weekend?
Yeah, so yes, I am a North Carolina basketball fan. So that hurt, like much of the season has. But I mean, it was just a perfect storm of plays that Duke executed to be able to win. And then most importantly, just free throws. North Carolina was abysmal at the line. So you can't shoot 50% on your free throws and expect to win. Like, it's not going to happen. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, I don't have a dog in the fight, really. When people ask me, I make, like, who I root for, I make the dad joke of saying I root for Clemson or NC State. But yeah, I mean, it was heartbreaking, especially for North Carolina in the season that they've had, just with injuries, to be up by 10 for majority of the game, or up by multiple possessions, then have Duke to come back multiple times.
Right.
It's pretty hard, but it also shows that they can play with Duke, and Duke has shown that they're beatable. I mean, if you let this Clemson team, who's like 500, let them beat you, like, and they're a top 10 team, I think it shows that the ACC, like, they're beatable. So I wouldn't say that they're out of it for the next time, but it is a hard pill to swallow when you have them in your own building.
The crazy thing about North Carolina is, so Brandon Robinson, who's probably their second or third best player this year, was injured, and he's out for a couple more weeks. North Carolina, based on their resume alone, is not going to make the NCAA tournament. There is 0% chance. However, if you win the ACC tournament or your conference tournament, whichever conference you're in, you get an automatic bid. So North Carolina is a team that actually could rally if everyone's healthy. They've proven they can play with anybody if just luck falls on their side and fortune. And they're a team that could be like Kemba Walker's UConn team. And what was that, 2009 maybe?
Something like that, yeah, where they won like 4 games in a row and then like won the national title.
They were like the number 9 seed in the Big East, and they were like outside of the bubble on NCAA tournament, and then they ended up winning the Big East tournament, and then winning the championship. I think they were number 9 seed in the Big East tournament, and they ended up being like a number 7 seed in the NCAA tournament. So they were a higher seed in the NCAA tournament than they were in their own conference. But, I mean, it's on the table for North Carolina. They have the elite talent with Anthony and with Brandon Robinson hitting the shots and the big guys down low. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. Like, I would be willing to bet that it's not going to happen. But it's with a year in college basketball, no one's truly dominant. Baylor is probably the closest team to dominant. It's a year that weird stuff could happen. Filling out a bracket this year is going to be insane.
Yeah, it's going to be a weird year for a bracket. That's all I have to say. Because, I mean, what was it, the stat that was crazy earlier in the year? Was that in the non-conference we had like at least six number 1 seeds that were upset. I mean, it was like in back-to-back weeks, you had Duke upset and North Carolina, Kentucky upset by non-ranked, non-Power 5 schools at home.
Right.
So it's crazy. And North Carolina's, I mean, they've got a chance to at least with the ACC tournament. It's crazy, and you never know. If I was going to pick a team to win the conference in the tournament, I would say Florida State. But I think out of any of those teams, I think Duke or Louisville is probably the strongest. Maybe Louisville is the strongest team to make it to in the NCAA tournament. But it's going to be a weird year. But also, it's a great transition. Guys, I don't know if you heard last year, but we did do a March Madness bracket with everyone who follows Backyard Catch. So we will be doing that again. So stay tuned for that and instructions of how to fill out your bracket if you want to take your shot, because it's going to be anybody's year. We don't know who's going to win, but it's going to be very exciting.
For sure. All right. Is there anything else that you wanted to squeeze into this episode, or?
No, I'm good. We hit on the XFL and baseball and basketball. We hit a lot of stuff for a catch up of 2020. I would just say stay tuned for upcoming shows. We've got a lot more stuff coming. So I'm all good.
This weekend we have the NBA All-Star Weekend, so that'll probably be a nice little topic of conversation next time we speak.
Yeah. No, that sounds great. Well, Will, thanks as always for being on. We really appreciate it.
No problem. I enjoy doing it with you.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, guys, thanks for listening. And don't worry, we will not have as long as a break as we did over the holidays. So stay tuned. And remember to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, share with your friends. And remember to like and rate the podcast so we know how we're doing, and also just spread it out to more people so they can enjoy it too. So thanks for listening. And for now, we are signing off.